Hello everyone, apologies for the delay and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Sarah Sartori. I'm the Research Manager on College Connect, and with me on screen at the moment is Charlotte Byrne from the Irish Refugee Council and Professor Eva Nolan, who is the new President of Maynooth University. Joining us shortly, hopefully, if poor Declan manages to sort out the technical issues we're having, should be Esther Bladow, who is going to be illustrating our event as we go through the event. And we have a sign interpreter who I believe is Orla McCabe for today. So just a couple of bits of housekeeping. You are able to type into the chat, so do let us know your thoughts as we go through the event. It is World Access to Higher Education Day, so for anyone who's tweeting or live tweeting, please use the hashtag WAHED or hashtag #RefugeeCNA. So for those of you who don't know, College Connect is a higher education authority initiative. We span 4 universities, so DCU, Maynooth University, DKIT and TUS Athlone, which is formerly AIT and is now Technological University of the Shannon. And College Connect's aim is to increase the diversity of the student population. So the research element of College Connect is community needs analysis, and essentially that just means what does the community need. So in 2019, we carried out a community needs analysis with prisoners around how to better support their access to higher education. And from 2020 to 2021, we have been working on this project, which has been with refugees and people in the protection process. And we are really excited to bring that to you today. We worked with 10 peer researchers. I'm going to call out their names because they're all amazing and they deserve the mention. Some of them you're going to meet today. Ronald Kayinga, Zoriana Pshik, Frank Amarchi, Tuba Lila Moyo, Sinothi Zita, Pride Duba, Kinda Nasli, Austin Piri, Archie Sita and Alketa Hota. And apologies if my pronunciation on your surnames, guys, is not the best. But we had a peer researcher team of 10. They spoke to 40 people in focus groups around their experience of trying to access education in Ireland. And they also sent out a survey to 104 refugees and people in the protection process. And these are the findings that we're really excited to share with you today. We've got a really exciting event in store for the next 2 hours. Professor Eva Lenonen is very kindly going to open the event as the new president of Maynooth University. Sinead Gibney, the Chief Commissioner for Human Rights and Equality in Ireland, is going to set the tone for the event by delivering the keynotes. And then we will turn to the panel of peer researchers, collaborators and artists who have joined forces with us to take this research, not only and turn it into a report, but also to take it into our institutions and onto our screens. So I'm sure my co-host needs no introduction, but I'll introduce her nonetheless. So this is Charlotte Byrne from the Irish Refugee Council.
Thanks, Sarah, and hi everybody. It's so lovely to see so many people here online today. We've got a lot of people online, as you can see, and I think it's a testament to how important this issue is to everybody working in this area. My name, as Sarah said, is Charlotte Byrne. I'm the Education Officer with the Irish Refugee Council. I joined the IRC in 2015. At the time, it was very much a voluntary role, kind of an exploratory role. We were trying to see if there was a need in this area. And very quickly, we realised that there was a huge need to advocate for change on behalf of people in the asylum process and to support people into further and higher education. So I stayed. So that was 6 years ago and I've stayed. They can't get rid of me. So in early 2019, I joined College Connect, the regional steering group that Sarah just explained a minute ago. And what really appealed to me about College Connect was the fact that the key focus was increasing participation of underrepresented groups in higher education in Ireland, not just the group of people that I work for, so not just protection applicants, refugees, but also other groups of people. And in particular, in November 2019, as a member of the RSG, I attended the launch of College Connect's first piece of research, which was around prisoners and former prisoners and their access to education. And it was really an inspiring morning. I remember it really well. I sat there and I was listening to stories of people who really felt that the door to education had been closed to them forever. You know, they had slipped out of the education process. down the wrong road, ended up in prison and felt they would never get back on track again. And really to hear their stories, it was heartbreaking and inspiring all at the same time. So as I was sitting there that morning, I thought to myself, I wonder what a piece of research would look like, this peer-to-peer approach, because I think that's so much more powerful than, having than non-peer-to-peer, if you know what I mean. So I wondered what it would look like from the point of view of refugees and protection applicants, people seeking asylum, and how we would use a piece of research like that to improve access to education. So at that point, I approached the regional steering group at College Connect and asked them would they consider this as a piece of work, and I'm delighted to say they did. And so that's now why we're sitting here today. I think it's also important to say at this point in time that, people coming to Ireland are not coming to this little island on the far west coast of Europe to study. As much as we like to think we have an excellent education system, nobody comes here just for that reason. They've ended up here sometimes not even knowing what Ireland was or where it is. They've come here because they've fled something, they've left something rather difficult behind. And they've come here obviously to seek protection and to seek safety. And while they're here waiting for the justice system to process their application, understandably they want to do something that's useful. So they either want to work or they want to improve their education so that in the course of time, when finally they get their application approved, they can then be contributing members of society. So here we are with this piece of research, and I should also say that at the time when it was approved, it was early 2020, it was supposed to be face-to-face. The whole team was ready to go face-to-face, and like the rest of the world, on a coin, they had to pivot and change it into the virtual world. And it's an absolute credit to the peer researchers because they were learning how to be peer researchers at the time, and then they suddenly had to upskill that again to do that work online. And it's an absolute credit to them that they managed to elicit such rich findings in that virtual space. So I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. And without further ado, I'm going to call upon Professor Eva Linonen to open this event. Now, Professor Linonen has extensive experience in the higher education system in Australia, Europe, and the United Kingdom. And prior to joining Maynooth University, she spent over 8 years in Australia, where first she held the position of Deputy Vice-Chancellor at the University of Wollongong, and then Vice-Chancellor at Murdoch University. So Professor Linonen, I'm really delighted to welcome you, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us here and to open our event.
Thank you very much, Charlotte and Sarah, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm so delighted to be here to welcome you to this launch and also welcome you to Maynooth University. I have been in Ireland now for 7 weeks, not very long at all, and 6.5 weeks in my role as president of Maynooth University. And, I have worked in higher education for a very long time, as Charlotte said, around the world. And I have to say that this is probably one of the most powerful access programs and pieces of research that I have come across. I don't have an in-depth knowledge of this research as yet, but I do have to say that, addressing issues impacting on access to higher education, but also marginalized groups of people is one of the most important things for us to do as higher education institutions. We exist for being in the service of society, and society means the whole of the society. So I'm absolutely delighted to learn more about this initiative and also being here today. Collaboration is really key to success. That's one thing that I have learned in life, in universities, working with universities and community groups. And so one of the really powerful elements that I see in this project is the collaboration between the higher education institutions, the Irish Refugee Council, the Higher Education Authority, and the Department of Further Higher Education, Research, Innovation and Science, and all the other community groups that are part of this. And it is through that collaboration that I think the outcomes then will become ones that are implemented, but also have a really transformative effect. One of the other things that I think this project really brings home is the importance of evidence base. an evidence base for practice and also policy making. And if I look back to the 2019 project that you just mentioned, I think, Sarah, you mentioned that, which was about educational experiences of prisoners and former prisoners. And then a significant role that research has played on development of policy and practice. And for instance, there's a project, as you know, with Maynooth University and Mountjoy Prison partnership, and also the Unlocking Potential project. And these are all a result of or closely influenced by that 2019 work. So good projects are also leading to other things. So this would be really evidence that this is a very transformative project. I think it was Charlotte who just mentioned that people kind of slip off the radar or don't even get to look into the radar. They're somehow just not part of the system. And so looking at, now refugees and asylum seekers is critical, because this is about transformation of people's lives, individual people's lives, but also families and whole communities. And when you do come to another country, you've gone through quite a big transformation of your life already. So I would be actually quite surprised if these people didn't have a real thirst and hunger for education, and also the understanding that education is a one way in which one can transform one's own life, but also the lives of families and communities for the better. So I think, when I look forward to hearing more about the outcomes of the research, but, carrying out those in-depth interviews and surveys, and then looking what comes out of that and what are the barriers, but also enablers for these individuals to come into education. Now, the barriers, you almost, you feel very humbled when I, for instance, read, Charlotte, your foreword, and you were describing there some of the barriers, and the barriers would be such that somebody doesn't have a bus fare, to get to college, or, has missed a meal, that day because they wanted to go to college, or, all of those or recognition of prior qualifications, which is really critical. I also know in my life that there have been people who come to different countries to study, and their prior learning has not been recognized, and they have to go back to square one. And it's not just in Ireland, or, it's sort of worldwide that people actually think about, how do you recognize somebody's prior learning? And we need to have a better understanding of that, I think, across the sector. So I'm very delighted about the fact that that could be also something that we could look going into the future. I'm mindful of time. This is something that I'm very passionate about. I could speak for quite a long time, but I think it's time that we actually hear about the research itself. I think the most powerful element from my perspective in this research is the fact that we have evidence from the participants who have the lived experiences, and putting their voices front and center is absolutely critical for us to know, as higher education institutions and others who enable people to access education, to hear that voice, so that we are able to put in place ways in which we support that experience going into the higher education. Today I learned a new phrase, or a new saying. It was, nothing about us without us. I hadn't heard that before, but that, I think, is the real underpinning of this particular research. And then very finally, I just wanted to thank everybody. It's you have all done the hard yards and the work, and we all need to then take the learnings from this and what comes out of this into the future. So Higher Education Authority, the department, as I already mentioned, of Further and Higher Education Research, Innovation and Science, of course, again, the Irish Refugee Council and the Higher Education Partners. There's, I'm sure, many more people and organizations I should thank, so please excuse me if I don't. I thank you all most sincerely, and without you, we could not have made this happen. And I'm very delighted and proud that you have made this happen. So I wish this research area success, and the research is successful when it's implemented and it starts to transform people's lives. So I look forward to following this. Have a wonderful conference, and I look forward to learning more.
Thank you so much, Professor Evelyn Nolan. It was lovely to listen to you. And I was just thinking as you were sharing, I loved what you said about how it is the higher education institution. It's our duty to serve the communities, and all that means everybody in the community. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And our next guest, who's our keynote, needs no introduction, I'm sure. Sinead, it's lovely to see you. You made it over from the audience, which is lovely. So just to introduce Sinead Gibney as the Chief Commissioner for the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission, having been appointed by President Michael D. Higgins in July 2020. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Sarah, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a real honour to be here today and to assist in launching this really important research, the MEND College Connect Community Needs Analysis for refugees and asylum seekers. I'm in position as Chief Commissioner of IREC for over a year now, but I worked for myself for the previous few years, and I was delighted to have the opportunity in that capacity to work with College Connect, providing facilitation and event management. As a programme and as a team, you really embody the strong values that we espouse within human rights and equality, and it was a real privilege to learn from you. And such an important programme in opening access to education for those underrepresented groups in our society. I helped the College Connect team to arrive at the vision and mission which would guide the programme, and so I feel a little biased in calling it out as a great piece of work here, but I'm declaring that bias, so here we go. The College Connect vision is a student population that reflects and respects the diversity of the community in our region. And the mission is to change who goes to college by working together as education providers and communities. And this new partnership will empower future students to make informed choices and fulfill their potential. As the National Human Rights and Equality body for the state, IREC would love if more bodies, particularly public sector bodies, would adopt similar visions for their organisations. Because until we see representation in all areas of society, equality for this state is out of reach, and human rights to work, to education, to dignity remain unrealised. And this research, grounded as it is in the human rights and equality principle of participation, is a critical contribution to our understanding of access to education for the migrant community, which is, of course, a key component of interculturalism. Our mandate in the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission is to promote and protect human rights and equality in Ireland, and to promote a culture of respect for human rights, equality and intercultural understanding in the state. So I'm going to talk to you over the next few minutes about some of the work of the Commission in that last point, intercultural understanding, including our recent submission to the National Anti-Racism Committee, and particularly the points relating to access to third level education, our consultation with young people, our work in removing barriers blocking the right to work for people in the international protection system, and our anti-racism public awareness campaign. And when I've covered that, after some warm encouragement from Ioma and the team, I'm also going to share with you one of my poems, which I hope will set the tone for today's event. In our recent engagement with the Department of Justice's Anti-Racism Committee, we encouraged the group to ensure that the upcoming National Action Plan Against Racism, which will be published next year, should task the Department of Further and Higher Education to put in place independently evaluated, sustainably funded, mainstreamed programmes to improve access and lifelong educational outcomes for minority ethnic groups, and to remove any administrative, financial and attitudinal barriers. We encourage them to task the same department to put in place measures to raise awareness of the student support scheme for people living in direct provision, and to revise the eligibility criteria for that scheme. And to task the state to develop a national initiative to promote the employment of ethnic and racial minority students post-college, building on the success and knowledge of the AHEAD programme for students with disabilities. These points were situated within a total of 165 recommendations, which when read together comprise what I think is a really comprehensive and aspirational approach to an equal society that actively works against racism. We believe that monitoring and enforcement, including the use of sanctions, are among the measures needed to combat racism in Ireland. To be effective, the plan will need to be structured to include clear targets, indicators, outcomes, timeframes, and a budget line. Earlier this year, I spoke to a group of young Black people about their experiences of racism, and education came up again and again as a site of discrimination for them. From microaggressions to more sinister hate speech and harassment, many of them told me that their access to education was impacted by the negative attitudes and behaviours of others. They also spoke of the systemic racism that affected their experiences of growing up in Ireland. And we heard similar messages in our 2019 youth consultation in preparation for our submission to the UN Convention Against Racial Discrimination. Until all of our young people feel both respected and represented in all spheres of their interaction with the state, accessing state services, education, housing, health, and employment, we will not know an equal Ireland. One area of focus for us over the last number of years is the right to work for people in the international protection system. Our legal work, both in individual cases and in our amicus curiae function, where we advise the court on human rights and equality matters, has allowed us to push this issue to a win in the courts in 2017, when the NHV ruling finally granted the right to work. Since then, we've continued to work towards the removal of administrative barriers that have prevented people from realising this right to work. Access to both driving licenses and bank accounts has been an issue, and we've seen some real gains very recently in both of those areas. We worked with Doris Limney last year on a report to access to decent work for people in the international protection system. Amongst the key findings was the pervasive underemployment of people in this community because of problems with qualification recognition, supports for people seeking work, and issues of institutional discrimination. And stemming from that work, we will next week launch a booklet for employers to dismantle some of the pervasive misinformation about employing people from this community. While this work has seen great headway in opening up employment for the migrant community, and particularly those in the international protection system, it has been disheartening to see the amount of resource and effort required to make such gains from our own organisations and from so many civil society organisations like the Irish Refugee Council. But it is so crucial that those people from the migrant community who wish to access education can also see a future ahead where they can access appropriate and decent work. So finally, you may have also seen our All Human, All Equal campaign, which earlier this year and now again is running on TV, radio and online, sharing experiences of people in Ireland who have experienced racism and how it has impacted them. There's a special issue of Hot Press out at the moment with 50 voices contributing to this dialogue. And the next one, which will see another 50 voices share their thoughts, including my own. And I have to say, it's a bit of a moment for me to finally end up in Hot Press. It feels like I've hit the big time now. I'm really looking forward to today's agenda, to hearing from the peer researchers and from the wonderful collection of performance and creative contributors. And I've been inspired to share some of my own personal poetry in the spirit of the creative programme that you've set for today. This poem is called 2016. It's a revised proclamation which I was lucky enough to perform to President Higgins in Áras an Uachtaráin, and which sets a vision for an equal Ireland. It's a personal composition written a few years ago, and so if you'll allow, I'm taking off my IREC Chief Commissioner hat for a minute while I recite it to you, and perhaps you might also resist quoting me on Twitter, as these are not necessarily official Commission positions, or not yet anyway, I should say. And I should also add that I once competed against Feli Speaks at a poetry slam a few years ago, and needless to say, she wiped the floor with me. So my offering is made today with humility and with the honour of sharing the stage once again with one of my favourite voices in Irish poetry today, and I look forward to your contribution later, Feli Speaks. Okay, Irish men and Irish women of 2016. Let's formulate a vision, mix a new shade of green. Let's capture our intention with a new set of words, articulate suggestions for a better, fairer world. A chance to start anew, a chance to learn from the past, establishing a few principles that will last. We'll celebrate the good, what we've achieved along the way, and we'll call out the failures that we carry with us today. We'll make sure that we include the members one and all of this total population, a complete roll call, because a good proclamation, a statement of intent, must gather all the nation into one big tent. Irish men and Irish women, let's talk about means and how there is no justice in the counting of the beans. Inequality has grown to ridiculous proportions, the mixed value of labour causing total distortion. Why should folks get paid a massive big check because their work is considered super high tech? They're privileged to have that role. They don't deserve high pay. They should instead acknowledge that things have gone their way. What about the concept of universal basic income, which carries the prospect of an economic system built around the dignity of different roles in society, not just the ability to drive capitalist propriety? Irish women and Irish men, next up is gender, because here, once again, this is a big offender. Ireland has a gender order which we all bring to bear on a culture that our daughters must continue to tear apart completely, dismantle patriarchy, call it out when we see gender hierarchy. Gender pay discrepancy, precarious labour, the impact of austerity harder than our male neighbours. Here's something for the mix, some basic groundwork. What about a price fix on unpaid care work? Let us start valuing the role that women mostly play in caring for us all. About time, I say. Irish men and Irish women and those who here reside, let's get a few things straight as we buckle up for the ride. We are the elite in the context of this globe. We're in the driving seat, wearing the crown and robe. So let's do something different when it comes to equal share. Let's open up our doors. Borders where? Nation states are human-made. They're a tool in our evolution. But I think we need to weigh them up as a solution, because an 80 million population inhabiting this globe can no longer say of a nation, that's my home. So let us lead the way in finding a new approach for providing safe asylum with zero reproach. Irish men and Irish women of 2016, we've all been given a chance to wipe things clean. I'm saying these things under the license of poetic, but what if it was all really truly prophetic? The agents of change are me and her and you. We're all far too quick to take the initial view that someone else has got this, someone else will make it good. Well, that's not the posture that our foremothers took. They stood for social justice, they fought for equality, and they made sacrifices of the highest degree. So let's proclaim a vision that we can all be proud of, and let us build an Ireland that values dignity, respect, and love. Thank you.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. That was pretty amazing. I really wasn't sure what to expect, but my God. Yeah, you should give up your day job and just go writing poetry full time. Thanks a million, Sinead. We're so delighted to have you here, and to have that piece of work was really impressive. And I also have to, with your real job, commend you for the work that you did on the right to work, because that really was really important piece. And the other thing you mentioned that I thought was excellent was the fact that we need to change who goes to college. It's like in those few words, you've encapsulated everything we're trying to do, you know, here. So thank you so much for being with us. Now, before we go to the first panel, I think we might go and check in with Esther, if that's possible. Esther is a visual facilitator and a graphic recorder. I'm not sure if she's available.
I'm not sure that Declan has managed to bring her on screen, actually. Declan, you're on mute there.
Did you find her, Declan?
We were just waiting for Esther to just raise a hand and we'll get her over onto screen, Charlotte. So
all right, we'll move on. We'll move on and come back then, if that's okay, because we need to keep moving. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce the first of 4 panels. And these are some of the amazing members of our research team that Sarah called out earlier on. And they were responsible for carrying out all of this research. So we've got Lillian Wanze. She's a doctoral scholar. Hi, Lillian, based in Maynooth University. And her area of specialisation is the impact of race and racism on Black women educators. And Lillian was the co-author of this report alongside Sarah. Next, we have Ronald. Ronald Kayinga is a psychiatric nurse. Hi, Ronald. And a member of MASI, the Movement of Asylum Seekers in Ireland. And Ronald was a principal peer researcher on this piece of work. Next we have Kinda. I see you there, Kinda. Hi. Kinda was a former TV presenter in Syria, and she also was a peer researcher on this project, and she brought the voice of the resettled Syrian refugees right into the heart of this piece of research. And last but not by no means least, poor Declan, who's probably had a heart attack already. trying to get everybody into the right place. You look calm, Declan. Declan's a community connector from College Connect, based in Maynooth University. And he is the fix-it man. He helped coordinate everything with this research and supported all aspects from the beginning. So really lovely to see you all here today, guys.
Hi everyone, so nice to see you. I feel like I haven't seen you in ages, and it wasn't that long ago actually. And Lillian, we were working together a lot really on the analysing of this research. And I can see Esther's joining us now. This is lovely. I was wondering, could you maybe share a bit about the background to that, who was involved and the findings? And I just think your own work is so poignant, particularly following on from Sinead Gibney's words about race and racism, and your work in that area is amazing. So whatever you'd like to share, we'd love to hear from you.
So thanks so much, Sarah. And I'd like to say again that working on this research was definitely one of the highlights of my year. It was a powerful process. The entire process was extremely powerful. So the team adopted a mixed method approach. We had focus groups, and then we had a survey, both designed to find out the same thing: what the barriers refugees and protection applicants, or people seeking asylum as we call them, face in their bid to access education. We had a total of about 14 focus groups with 39 participants attending. And even though these focus groups were carried out online, Sarah, we often say this, I think they were the most emotive and powerful spaces I have ever been in a very long time. We also had 104 survey responses, which I think gave us very good coverage and confidence in publishing our findings. And I'll just go straight to the findings. Now, the findings were very interesting, sad, but also very important. So we had the usual kind of findings the usual kind of things that you have with non-traditional students. So we had childcare issues, we had money issues, but we also had more emotive, bespoke barriers that were coming up from the research. We had people speak about international fees, like the president of the Maynooth University had already spoken about. We had people cross so many barriers to get to the gate of the university only to be told, we need a stamp 4. And these people have been years waiting for a stamp 4. So we had those kind of things. We also had people who crossed all these hurdles, got into school, but didn't have food to eat. They went hungry. And so they were sitting in their classrooms, unable to concentrate because they couldn't afford a meal, because they were ashamed to say to people, I can't afford a meal. We had issues like lack of information. So I remember one participant shared that a teacher, he was sitting in a class and the teacher was speaking derogatorily about refugees. In fact, the teacher had no clue what these people had to go through. And of course, he had to hide his identity. So we had the stigma, we had issues about what direct provision the whole system had done to people's minds and psychology and all of that. So it was, like I said, it was really, really very powerful research with some of all these very emotive findings, but it wasn't all bad news. We had participants share how the Irish Refugee Council, for instance, had helped them and been with them. One participant said the Irish Refugee Council was like her grandmother's home. And I thought that was so powerful. So we had the Irish Refugee Council being of great help. We had the Dunleary Refugee Project, St. Vincent de Paul. These are people and organizations who went above and beyond to help this cohort. We also had random strangers and individuals who helped with practical things like food, laptops, and things like that. So it wasn't all bad news. We had people we had Spirazi. I know I'm missing out some. I'm just very mindful of time. But like I said, Sarah, I think this is a very important piece of critical research that foregrounds the voices of a cohort who have gone through a whole lot just to live, just to have a safe life. And it is my hope that this research will make a difference. It is my hope that the recommendations will be implemented. And I just want to say congratulations to everyone. It was a powerful and beautiful process to get here. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Lillian. That's amazing. And thank you for all your contribution to this research. That was really, really amazing as well. I think you summed it up there in one expression, which was the multitude of barriers. You know, you listed out all the barriers, but it's not the one barrier or the other barrier. It's the multitude of barriers that can be really crippling at times. So thank you for that. Declan, I'm going to come over to you now, if I may, because I know you were hugely involved in the coordination of the project, which was peer-to-peer research, as we've said. It involved 10 peer researchers. So can you tell us a little bit about what that involved, please?
Yeah, thanks, Charlotte. And like Sarah says, it's great to see everybody again. It's been a couple of months since we saw the team, and we were so, you know, working closely for such a long period this time last year. It kind of got us through a lot of the craziness of the lockdowns and stuff like that. Like the fact that we were able to do what we've done, as Lillian says, it still feels like quite a remarkable achievement, and great to see us coming all together here today. I suppose in terms of the process, College Connect is funded through the Higher Education Authority's Path 3 programme, which is aimed at increasing participation of underrepresented groups in higher education. So College Connect, like most of the Path 3 programs around the country, we engage with groups and communities by trying to connect with and working with and employing individuals from those groups to work alongside us. So we find that this peer-led approach builds more meaningful relationships and provides a greater insight into what is going on for people. And it also offers hope in that the peers that we work with have somehow managed to navigate these many barriers into higher education, and showing that it can be you, which is kind of a tagline that we have in College Connect. So as part of the College Connect family, the people or peers that we work with become mentors to the wider community and an example of the transformative power of access to higher education. So in terms of our approach to the community needs analysis, we embark on a process of recruiting peer researchers from the community for which the research is focused on. With this group, we build a team, and what we hope is an empowering relationship with the group. Together, we design the research process. We then train the team and deliver that process. And then we all get to work as a group of social scientists, so to speak. Our peer researchers also provide essential support to the research by helping us recruit the research participants through their community networks, and they work with us in delivering follow-up support to the research participants. So to an extent, there's no point in College Connect engaging with a number of people to talk about the barriers to higher education without actually following up and supporting those people overcome those barriers and embark on their own journeys into higher education. So in that sense, the work continues, and we continue to work with our peer researchers and the extended College Connect family over the foreseeable future and into phase 2 of the programme. And I know we've a couple of the College Connect family here with us, so I'll hand over to the guys.
Thanks a million, Declan. And I was just thinking, I think what you said there about hope is really important, that there was, using the peer research approach does bring a sense of hope, and especially when we're hearing about such, you know, as Lillian said, such sad and emotive stories, that piece of hope is so important to hold on to. And the peer researcher group are heroes, you know, and Kinda Nasli and Ronald Kayinga, it's really, really lovely to see you, and lovely that you're here. And Ronald was a principal peer researcher on this project, and Kinda was instrumental in bringing the voice of resettled refugees into the research process, who are primarily Syrian. And Kinda, you did an amazing job, because you weren't just recruiting the participants and facilitating focus groups, you were also translating. Myself and Lillian heard your recordings, so translating from Arabic and getting that voice into the research. So really thank you so much for this. Ronald, can you tell us a little bit, or share a little bit with the audience, about what was involved with being a peer researcher, a principal peer researcher?
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I would like to thank everyone who participated in this research. And also, it was really a life-challenging and changing kind of research. Basically, I was on my side. I was really so challenged and also inspired by the people we talked to. Well, as my role of the principal researcher, principal peer researcher, my job was to steer and direct the project, also to carry out different kind of focus groups and interview the people, and also to participate, also sharing my experiences as someone who went through direct provision. So, and it was really so important also to liaise with the team, also to view and check out the content of the research and how to see that we put it together, and also to make a write-up at the end of the day of what we've researched and people's experiences. Yeah.
Thank you, Ronald. And oh, there's an echo there. And Kinda, would you like to share a little bit about your experience as a peer researcher? As Ronald just highlighted there, it's quite a challenging role because it's a dual role, isn't it? You're sharing your own experience and you're facilitating other people to share their experience.
Hello, everyone. It's a great opportunity to speak to you all. Yes, it was a unique opportunity for me to re-engage myself with other Syrian stories, especially the ladies. I was facilitating with the ladies, Syrian ladies, who have ambitions, who have dreams, who are responsible for families. There was something very special about that group because they were mothers, and you cannot imagine when your kids come back from school and you just can't help them to do their homework. This sounds very simple, but how are you going to continue as a normal mother without being reliable for your kids? My kids are 6 years old, and every day they come back from school and correct for me another English word, and I feel happy with that. But I know some English. But for many, many mothers, many Syrian women, refugees, they have this struggle inside their house. So they needed a chance. They needed a real hope. First to tell their stories, and they picked up photo voices. I mean, that was really challenging for them. And myself, I admired them at the beginning because they have the courage to share their experience. And it was a very unique opportunity. I would like to thank you all for this.
No, thank you, Kinda. And we used a photo voice methodology for this research. So just for anyone in the audience who doesn't know what photo voice is, we asked participants to bring a photograph that represented a barrier towards their access to education, or indeed it could be a support. And so you're going to share this Kinda, I know this is your photograph. Would you mind sharing your photo voice with everybody here so people can get an idea as to how this worked in practice?
Yes, sure. I live in Longford, in fact, and when I thought about any idea I would like to tell, in fact, I found myself in the train station, because when I arrived Ireland, I really arrived with many, many hopes and ambitions and dreams to continue my education. But when I arrived Longford, there is no university in Longford, so I was just trying to find out how to arrive to university, and then there was the only way, like either you drive yourself or you take the train. I find it very complicated. I'm 48 years old. I arrived Ireland 2 years ago at the time when I took this photo, and then I stood there in the train station and I looked to the distance between me and everything else, between me and the future, between me and my dreams, because I thought when I arrived that would be the end of my journey, but I discovered it is the beginning of another long journey. When you go to book a ticket for the train, you don't think about it. You just go book a ticket and you go. Maybe you think what is the suitable time for you, but for people like us, refugees, we need time to get used to the system, to not be embarrassed from the line behind us while we are trying to find out the right keys to click. We have to ask people about that. If you arrive, if you succeeded to make the ticket, and then you have to go through these barriers in the train station, which I was really embarrassed the first time to do it myself alone. And then there is this big city when you arrive, and there is no one to ask for the way if you are lost or anything, not a friend, not a house, not a family. So between me and that ambition of having education, there was this distance, very, very long distance. I remember these distances, there were many distances, even inside my house, because people will tell you, your close family or friends, why you need this thing? You are so greedy. You wanted to arrive to a safe country. You are here now, you're safe with your kids, and now you have dreams and ambitions and education. I'm graduated from English literature, and I worked with a career, whatever that career is, for 20 years. And when I arrived here, people told me, Kinda, you have to start from zero. How many zeros I have, you know? I have zero with my relationship with my neighbors. I have zero relation with my education. I have zero with my career. And even when I apply to any kind of work, I have 20 years experience, but they want work experience in Ireland, which I couldn't get. So what I needed from this education is to build the bridges between me and my new identity, because I already lost my identity. I came here, I thought I can continue, but I really found many barriers for me. I couldn't continue and have to start over again. The study is one of the main issues I have to go on. This is how I was raised up. My mother told me that when you are educated, you are strong. You are a strong woman, strong mother, and strong person trying to belong to the new country. So it was very difficult. I couldn't make it because my kids were very little. I couldn't leave them very long time to go to the train and spend hours on the way and come back. And honestly, I couldn't pay for it because this cost a lot of money for every day to go. But by all means, I couldn't make it register for the university anyway. But later, I tried to find out my way to education in Langford. I said, it's okay, it's better than doing nothing. Just go to the 3rd level or 4th level or 5th level, just do it. So I went there and I asked for maybe I make English course or computer course. So they gave me, very kind people, but they gave me a work of sheet of paper and I answered all the questions. They were very simple. And then they said, oh, Kinda, you are so qualified, we can take you in our courses. I went back again home, doing nothing, looked into the space like just somebody lost the gravity. I mean, I wasn't able to connect to anyone. My hands were not able to be raised and say hi. I don't have confidence. The stolen identity, you know, it's there in every step in your life when you are a refugee. If you are not educated, if you are not connected to the education, because this is fulfilling your dream and ambitions and connecting you to real work, you can't do it. We are judged, we are prejudged as refugees whenever we go. I mean, we are refugees for people. We don't have, like, we are not Syrian refugees or Iraqi refugees. We are refugees. I remember one of the days I went to buy something, a lipstick, and the lady said, oh, now you can use a lipstick. Where are you from? I said, from Syria. She said, oh, yeah. You're from Taliban. I saw what happened in Kabul. I said, no, we are connected. We all have miserable lives in our homeland. She said, yeah, it's all the same. I came back home. I wanted to tell her, no, we are not the same. I mean, me and Sarah, me and my husband, me and my son, we are not the same. We're different. We're individuals. We have identity. We have something specific in our self. I don't want to go through this long time. I just want to tell you one thing. Every time you go into the train, remember me, and through me, remember all the refugees. Because the first time I heard mind the gap, I told my son, I asked him, he's 19 years old, what does that mean? He said, mind the gap, watch your steps when you go out of the train. And I thought how many gaps I have to mind since I arrived. The gap of being lost, the gap of having dreams, big dreams for the people here. Because many refugees here, they advise me, Kinda, you are a refugee, forget about your last life, forget about your education, blah, 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 blah. You have to start from zero. And I started from cleaning toilets or bathrooms. And I respect him for that. And this connected me again to Frank McCourt again, because he always talked about that as a migrant in America. And even I tried it. I went to work as a kitchen assistant. But then, because College Connect will never forget you, because when you start your work and they find you, they will keep pushing you to continue your education. And if once, Charlotte, I said that the Irish Refugee Council, it sounds like our grandmother's house who always take care of us, then College Connect is our mother house, because they always look at you. If you met them once and they saw that you have the real, the need to study and have your education, they will help you and they will follow you and will encourage you, and they will be your family. That's all. I never imagined one scene from A Photo Voice can tell all these stories. There are many other stories behind. Every time you look at them, remember, There are people in need to your help. There are people really eager to continue their education. We just need your help. Please make the documents less, because we can't bring our documents from our homeland. Please make the fees less, even for Duolingo test to join the course. I couldn't make it more than 3 times, 40 euros each test, and I have to get 120 degrees. I made 190, 117, 118. I couldn't continue because I can't pay more than this money, you know what I mean? So I have to wait till the next year. So please, this help will make us build the bridges together, not like this. It will make us explore the bridges between us. We're all human beings. I want to thank you. You are wonderful people. I'm so happy in Ireland. College Connect, you are my home. You are my family. Thank you so much. Sarah, Declan, I love you. I can't say more than this. You are great people, and all the team, and Charlotte, and all the panelists and the attendants. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kinda. I just love listening to you. I learn so much from you every time I listen to you. And as somebody else in the research said, we will never think the same about Mind the Gap again. Thank you so much for sharing that and bringing us into your shoes for that little amount of time. And Ronald, we're going to have a look, I think, at your photo voice. If Declan is able to share it with us, here we go.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kinda. It's hard to speak after a strong kind of speech from Kinda. Yeah, but I'd like to share the photo voice. So basically, the barriers to education, they really start from direct provisions where people stay, where the refugees stay. As you look, that's where I used to live. That's where that was my room when I was in direct provision. So basically, you can see the conditions that they strip off your little human rights, like hygiene, privacy. So imagine people living together, sharing a room with 4 people with different kind of backgrounds, different traumas of lives, and they bring them together in that kind of life, in situation. Your guess is good as mine. So there's no peace, there's breakdown mentally. So basically, that's the situation. And you can see that most of the counties, or where these direct provisions are placed, they are not allowed to go even to attain a level 5 course. So basically, the situation like this really affects. Even if someone gets a chance to have an education, there's no way anyone can live in this kind of a situation or to read, because everyone is living a different life. And this is kind of where I saw many people breaking down in direct provision. If you're not really mentally strong and you have a strong defense mechanism and you see life in a positive way, there's no way you can survive this kind of a situation. I would like to share my experience in such a way that even people who have a chance to go and attain a level 5 education, you leave a place like this, you have no breakfast, you come back in the evening, there's no dinner or lunch for you, and you have to wake up on an empty stomach, and you have to go back to school the following day. So all these barriers, I'm sure, as a person who advocates and who's putting a voice ahead for people living in their vision, should help at the end of the day even to abolish this kind of a system, because it's affecting people. When people come here with different reasons, we come looking for support, security, and also we are fast for change in our lives, our children, the community we live, and the country at large that is hosting us. So the barriers really, they start straight away from direct provision as far as my experience is concerned. And people out there, if a student gets a place in a university or anywhere and you get to know they are from direct provision, just imagine this kind of life they live. There's no access to internet. And some students even take long to submitting their assignments, but some of the lecturers would not know the situation of what they go through. So this is my experience that I would like to share with you, but I know because of the limited time, I can't share with you a lot, but I would like to appreciate and thank everyone who has come to attend, and also to who is there to forward our voices and to see a change and to make sure that people live a better life and they also reclaim their dignity as asylum seekers and as humans. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ronald. Thank you so much, Kinda, and for sharing those parts of your stories. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thanks a lot, Declan, Lillian, Ronald and Kinda for all of that, particularly Ronald and Kinda for sharing such personal stories. So this report now is actually published, and as Sarah said earlier on, you'll receive the link, but you can also look at collegeconnect.ie, it'll be there, and next week everybody will receive a PDF and a survey. So we would just like to take this opportunity now to thank everybody who was involved in the research oversight group, because they reviewed the report for us, and that was really vital. So bear with me while I just run through a little list of people who were supportive of this work. It included Joan Dobbin from the Dún Laoghaire Refugee Council, Riyad El-Mosulmani from Cross Care Migrant Project, Karina Curley from DCU Widening Participation, Ayoma Bowe from College Connect, Chris McDermott from TOOS, Coletta Dalkenny from Dundalk IT, Nick Henderson from the Refugee Council, Rose Ryan from Maynooth University Access, and most especially thanks to Cliona Murphy from Maynooth University Law, who peer-reviewed this report for us. We're extremely grateful for everyone's report, or support rather. I'm just wondering, Sarah, before we go to the next panel, did you want to go to Esther?
Yeah, that would be great. And maybe Esther, would we be able to have a look at what you're doing there? Because it looks fabulous from where we're sitting.
Yeah, hi Sarah. Can you hear me?
Hi, you got in eventually. Yay.
I did. Shall I share my screen? Like, that would
be great, because it looks really cool. We can just see the red and black.
Yeah, so just give me a moment and I hope it's gonna work. Okay, hang on a second. It's asking me questions. I think you might have to allow me to share, because it's asking me who can share. All panelists, only hosts.
Yeah, Esther, you should be a co-host there. Should be able to share.
Oh, now it's working. Fantastic.
Thanks.
Okay. So I hope.
Yeah, it's come up big now.
Oh, yay. Okay, that went really quickly. Great.
Oh, lovely.
So this is just what I've been working on now, with these two very impactful, and it's you know, I grew up and went to school and all of that in Ireland, and it's really valuable to hear these stories, and I hope I've done them a little bit of justice drawing them, and to me, just what keeps coming up are all the barriers, and so I decided to draw all of these barriers essentially to the way forward. But there is hope, it sounds like, from the stories that we've heard, and yeah, that's what I tried to show. And I've got your grandmother's house there, or the grandmother anyway.
That's gorgeous. That's gorgeous. Thank you so much, Esther. Brilliant. We'll come and have a look at you later on, and we just say hi to Felicia. Feli Speaks, you're with us here now, and Keith Walsh. Lovely to see you both. How are you doing?
Thanks, it's lovely to see you, Sarah. Hi, everyone.
I know, it's been a long time. It feels like a really, really long time. Felicia, I'm sure you don't need any introduction. You're everywhere at the moment. Huge congratulations on your amazing success.
Thank you.
And so Felicia Olasanya, you're originally from Nigeria. You came here with your mum, and you spent some time in the Belseskin Direct Provision Centre before moving to Longford. And you've really made it big as a spoken word artist, which is amazing. And you're on the Leaving Cert 22-23, which gives me hope for the future of the Leaving Cert, I've got to say. So it's so nice to see you again. And Keith, it's lovely to see you. I can't believe I haven't even seen you face to face before. Keith and I work together on the phone and on email, and we haven't actually seen each other. So Keith is from Two Pair Films, which is an amazing documentary filmmaking duo in the west of Ireland. And if anyone hasn't seen, I mean, Apples of the Golan, or check out their work online. They do some amazing, amazing work in the area of equality and social justice and filmmaking. So Felicia, do you want to share this? We're talking about the deconstructed video and the deconstructed piece, which is the an arts video that we made to accompany this research report. So do you want to share a little bit about what you did on this piece? Because it would be great to hear.
Yes, thank you for the intro, Sarah. I really appreciate it. Gosh, I found this piece actually probably one of the most difficult things I've ever done. Not because I find writing hard, but mostly because I found confronting the truths and the realities in the conversation so incredibly difficult to digest. And I think it was only difficult because of how much truth was involved. And I think as a writer or as a spoken word artist, one of the things that is integral to my art is truth telling. And I found it stunning in the literal sense of the word to encounter truth in such raw format. And I just wanted to do it justice. I wanted to be able to keep a lot of the quotes. There was a lot of conversation quotes from a lot of the refugee speakers, the seekers that were talking about their access and their barriers to education. And I found it just, wow. For a poet, I often come to a lack of words. But yeah, I think it was just really important for me and integral to keep the truths and the realities of these speakers in the pieces. I didn't want to override what they were saying with my poetry. I was just incredibly humbled to be given the challenge to do so. And I remember the first time I performed it, I bawled. I absolutely bawled like a baby. So I'm going to try not to cry this time.
Brilliant. Are you going to perform it for us, Felicia?
Yes, I'll be performing
so that would be super. Yeah. Yeah, take it away.
Awesome.
Cool.
Deconstructed. I was reduced to nothing. But you have to rebuild yourself. When whatever throws you from your country lands you here in a walled-off institution, hard-rocked into a corner you saved your body for, you're supposed to be grateful. When the lonely slowly eats away your mind, disabling and disarming, mocking the better future you sought after, the better start, the all of the above checklist, you have to rebuild yourself. When you sought asylum with a degree in the bag, mastered skills earned and deserved, you will discover how hard it is to hold onto your being when they call your name like that. When they jerk with surprise at your human, when they say you answer to their shock, to the notion of, I don't know where to put him. This is where you belong. Get back. You recall. You remember. This identity has completely taken me over. I really had to rebuild myself. Thank you.
Woo! Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much. And Felicia, we took your work and we brought it to Catherine Young, who is an amazing choreographer. If anybody hasn't had a chance yet to see State of Exception, which is an embodied dance performance really about direct provision, if you get the opportunity, go and see it. Catherine couldn't be with us today because she's in rehearsal at the moment, but she did speak to me yesterday on live from the theatre where she's rehearsing. So I don't know, Declan, if you're able to share the video of Catherine, and we just get her input, which would be great. Thank you so much. She's doing a dance show at the moment about Palestine. So
switch my phone off.
There she is. So Catherine, so thank you so much for joining us and on your lunch break, and we can see the theatre in the background. So Catherine is a Dance Ireland Associate Artist whose dance works include State of Exception, and they've all been received to critical acclaim. Catherine, what are you working at on the moment, or on at the moment?
Yeah, we're just in the last 2 weeks of a new show called Floating on a Dead Sea. That's going to premiere at the Dublin Dance Festival next week. So it's a show inspired by my experiences, my time in Palestine. We've gone over and back a few times to perform, and then kind of got to see the reality of the situation over there. So it's a follow-on show to State of Exception, which is the show I created based on my experience with people in direct provision. So originally, the State of Exception was going to combine my Palestinian experience and direct provision, because they both look at states of exception, but both are so huge in terms of topics, I had to separate them out. So we're now working on the sequel show. Brilliant.
And it was States of Exception. That's what sort of spurred me to contact you, because that show is it pulls you into the world of direct provision and gives a sense of the embodiment or the embodied oppression that happens to people in the system. In the direct provision system, and I think also in the protection process. I mean, and I think that's what we were trying to capture with Deconstructed, is that sense of embodied oppression.
Yeah, and what's interesting is like we came back to Longford to which is where we made State of Exception, and one of our dancers who's in direct provision in the Longford system, we've known him for the last 6 years. When we met him, he was already 2 years in direct provision, and I was just reflecting on every time he'd come back to tour. I've been back in 2018, 2020, and again 2021. He cooks for us. He's an amazing cook. But we had this sense last night of we're moving on with our lives, and every year we come back, and he's disappearing even more. And I was quite shocked last night. I hadn't seen him since before lockdown, and his physicality, he's lost a lot of weight. He's very stressed, and I just felt like his personality is disappearing. He was bubbly and lively when I met him, and he's now 6 years, which to me is inhuman, to have to spend 6 years, and he isn't allowed work. He isn't allowed to go to college. So just imagine 6 years of your life just disappearing. So it was very, very hard. I think we were all quite emotional after seeing him. It was very, because you make the show hoping that you might make some change, and then you can realize like nothing has changed for our friend, and yeah, it has to end. It really does. It's hard to see a human physically, mentally, emotionally just disappear,
deteriorate, and literally their identity, self-worth, and lust for life, everything sort of disappear, and people,
and I don't think
about that.
I don't think our politicians see people as humans, and I wonder if they spent an afternoon with somebody in direct provision and just saw them as an equal human. I don't think you'd be able to allow the system to continue. You would know it's wrong, and we shouldn't be, as Irish people, we shouldn't be allowing it to continue. No. It's our watch, and it should be dismantled.
And for this piece with Deconstructed, that you worked with Mafuta Yusuf, who is a dancer who you worked with on State of Exception, yes, to bring this piece to life for us. So can you tell us how, because it's really interesting, because we did all this on Zoom and on phone calls, and I know they were in Belgium, Davide Bellotti and Junior, who's Mafuta goes by Junior, so you were in contact with them over there.
Yeah, I mean, when you approached me about doing the work, we had talked about some options in terms of working with people live here in Ireland, and then kind of mature reflection, I was like, the only person that could do this is Junior. I mean, he went through the process in creating State of Exception, so he met all the asylum seekers. He read their testimonies, he embodied their stories, and also I think he pulls from his own father, who came through the asylum system through Germany before he came to Ireland. So it is quite personal for him as well. So for me, he was the only person that I wanted to do this. And I think also in terms of listening to Felicia's, when I heard her words, then my choice of dancer was very much, it had to be him. So yeah, he wasn't in Ireland, so this, you know, I wasn't a big fan of working over Zoom, but there was no other way to do it. So,
Yeah.
and Junior's a very intelligent dancer, so in terms of just communicating with him, he gets it, and I knew he would do an outstanding job as he did. So yeah, we chatted, and then we had a Zoom session where, you know, I talked through kind of what I was feeling, you know, about the text. You know, we improvised, you know, against the text and trying to find a rhythm of it. And at that stage, he had rented a space in the theatre because we thought we were going to do it in a black box. And then it kind of became apparent, well, we kind of decided, no, actually, let's see if we can find somewhere that might resonate more like, you know, like a college or like an institution, because I think when you put it on a stage with light, you know, there was lights and stuff, and then you get theatrical, and, you know, in terms of making a film, it allows us to do it somewhere else. So he works with Davide over in Belgium, so the two of them kind of went location scouting and found, I think, the perfect location for it, which then changed the material in terms of, you know, because it wasn't in this kind of black box space, it was going to be, you know, in a building, so there was reacting against the space. So himself and Junior that kind of went in and kept the intentions of everything that we had kind of worked on in the black box space, and found a way to devise and react. And also, you know, weaving film in, it adds a whole other layer of artistry and perspective, which I think they both did a beautiful job with the material.
They did, and we're going to watch it now. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'll let you get some lunch and get. Great, thank you. And the next step in this process was Keith. We gave all the material to you. Tyron filmed Felicia, and Catherine, as she said, worked with Davide and Junior over in Belgium. And I literally dumped all the material at you and said, help, can you put this together for us? So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thanks very much for having me, and it's very nice to finally meet you and see you. I mean, I suppose in my work, I'm a documentary filmmaker primarily, but I also work freelance as an editor and a camera person. And I suppose, I mean, in most of my work, I see myself in some way as a translator, in terms of translating images or ideas, you know, images into ideas or ideas into images. And I think that was my main role in this part. It was about myself and yourself speaking, and then listening to and looking at the material that was given to me between Felicia's words, the dancing, the movement of the dancing that Catherine, Davide and Junior created, and trying to and the research, of course, and to kind of get them to all speak to each other. And that, I suppose, you know, the power of all the individual work was there. It was about trying to kind of find that thing that made every one of those elements speak to each other. And I think in our conversations, like, I suppose the thing that kind of we hit upon was to try to get voices of the participants in the research to interact with those three elements: the dance, the poetry, and the research. And I think that was the kind of, I mean, that was something that you had the idea previous to that, and then so I suppose it was that kind of lovely moment where you feel that, you know, there's an idea that you've hit upon that was kind of there in the middle between us, and maybe all of us, you know, I think that's what kind of really it all speaks to all the elements. And it was lovely when we just hit upon it and was like, okay, well, that's the way to do it. The way to do it is to kind of get the participant group to meet again and to speak to it.
Yeah, that was the key, wasn't it? Because it's like, this is an arts video, but we also want people to know that it's also research and that it's real. And like what Felicia was saying, bring that real human experience into it as well. So we're going to watch Deconstructed now, and thank you so much, guys. I think Declan's going to share that for us now, and this is the first official screening of it. So please enjoy, everybody.
People don't really know direct provision. Unless you have experienced direct provision, you will still not know how much pain it is, to be honest, to go through that.
I really had to rebuild myself.
I really had to rebuild myself.
The system scars lives forever, you know.
When I build myself, I even need to build my past.
I need the past here to survive. I need memory.
I can't get access to education. I can't get access to work.
The direct provision system is deeply damaging.
Deconstructed.
It oppresses you.
I was reduced to nothing.
It breaks you.
But you have to rebuild yourself. When whatever throws you from your country lands you here in a walled-off institute, hard-rocked into a corner you saved your body for, you should be grateful.
I am grateful for the security, for the oxygen, for the water, for the food, for the safety, but I still have dreams, I still have hopes. I'm still a human being, you know.
When the lonely slowly eats away your mind, disabling and disarming, mocking the better future you sought after, the better start, the all of the above checklist, you have to rebuild yourself.
Tired souls and tired hearts.
When you sought asylum with a degree in the bag, mastered skills earned and deserved, you would discover how hard it is to hold on to your being when they call your name like that, when they jerk with surprise at your human, when they say you answer to their shock to the notion of, oh, I don't know where to put them. This is where you belong. Get back. You recall, you remember, this identity has completely taken me over. I really had to rebuild myself.
Over the years, you cannot rely on yourself anymore because the system created a dependency.
This has led my mind to believe maybe this is where I belong.
Only the word asylum seeker felt like it's engraved in my forehead, and whenever I go, nobody sees me.
Everywhere I go, I find rejection because of my identity.
No one will stop to have a chat, quick one with me in the street. These streets are not mine yet.
You should be grateful.
Once you are in, it's difficult to get out. Once you are there, you are afraid to leave.
Wow, really powerful stuff. If somebody said to you, you have to take a piece of research and turn it into a piece of art, you couldn't really imagine that you would come up with that. Felicia said that she wanted to tell the truth, and I think you certainly did that justice, Felicia, in that. And Keith, you said you wanted to turn ideas into images, and oh my God, did you certainly do that. And I think Catherine, although she's not here, that was an amazing piece of choreography, and David and Junior who put that all together. Altogether, I really feel slightly speechless because I don't think I've ever seen something jump off a page and into, you know, a three-dimensional thing that you can feel almost as they're doing it. So thank you so much for all of that. It's really amazing work. I'm going to plow on because we're running a little bit behind time.
Thanks, guys. Lovely to see you.
Are they leaving us now? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Bye, guys, and thank you so much. So will we go ahead with panel 3, Sarah? You think?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Lovely.
Okay. So it's my pleasure to introduce our third panel, and this is the We Are Here team. So when I first came across the idea that Sarah and the gang were going to try and take this piece of research and bring it into the public sphere, I thought, oh my God, what's that going to look like? Because, you know, we had already discussed taking it into the art world, which you've just seen. And so when I first heard the title of it as well, I sort of, you know, when you see something, you read it and you think, how do you read that? And the second here are in capitals. So it's sort of, you know, true social media style, it made me shout. So when I read it, I said, we are here. Here? That's how I heard it, you know. So it's a little bit like, we're here. Can you hear me? Do you see that I'm here? And it reminded me that, you know, people who are living in direct provision are so isolated from the rest of society that they really are hidden away and almost invisible. So it's like, you know, they have to shout to be seen. You know, do you realize I'm actually here? And actually that just brings to mind something that Catherine said, which she said, I don't think our politicians see people as humans. Just going to leave that statement there because I think that's really quite an interesting way of looking at it. So yes, so the We Are Here project, it was basically bringing the stories and the experiences of refugees into the public sphere. So it's a touring outdoor exhibition. There's a website attached to it, and there's a cultural awareness training program. So if you go on the website, if you're in your own work, if you were looking for some cultural awareness training, you'll find some very interesting videos there that can help you in your own work. So my pleasure to introduce Tyron Lovett, who's a multimedia specialist based in Maynooth and current communications and campaign support coordinator with Maynooth Student Union. Alketa Hutta, who is an MA candidate in Security, Intelligence and Strategic Studies, and she's also a member of the University of Ireland Sanctuary Steering Committee. Karen Fenlon, who's a research associate on College Connect and an educator on the Turn to Teaching programme in Maynooth University. And Zoriana Psik, a community educator and associate staff member at Maynooth University. She's also an ex-asylum seeker and the current chair of Kildare Integration Network, a member of the Newbridge Asylum Seeker Support Group. Now this particular exhibition has formally been launched already at Kildare Social Inclusion Week on the 30th of September, so it's live. And the plan is that the exhibition will tour. Its first touring location was Maynooth University North Campus. That took place on the 26th of October. I was there, I experienced it. And what was really interesting about it was looking at people as they came by and they looked at the photograph and they read the story that explains the photograph and then had conversations with each other. So it generated strangers talking to strangers about direct provision, about this whole area, and those conversations wouldn't have happened without this. So Karen, I'm going to come to you first because I know you had a huge amount to do in terms of preparing this outdoor exhibition. I'm sure it was a lot more work than we can even imagine. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Hi Charlotte, thank you. Well, I suppose we've seen the enormous trust each and every one of participants put into the research team throughout the research, and then we approach them again to once again put their trust in us to take this research off the page and bring it out into the public forum in the form of the outdoor expedition and the online expedition. So our initial thought was, you know, it needed to be powerful, it needed to be impactful. We needed people, I suppose, to spark people's initial curiosity to come over to the exhibit boards and start to read, because once they started reading the participants' photos and stories, testimonies would encourage them to keep reading, and then they will get an insight into everything about the research and what happened. And we also needed for them then to be able to react to the research and leave a comment about the exhibition by scanning the QR code that will link them then directly to the website. And the exhibition is also on there, so they can tell friends and family, then colleagues that weren't able to visit, to see it online. So I suppose we had a meeting with the team, and we kind of knew what we didn't want. And we played around with ideas of what we did want. And as I said, we needed it to be big. We needed to spark people's curiosity. So we did come up with some ideas, colour schemes, and what we would like to happen with the exhibition. And we then had a chat with some of the peer researchers and put our ideas to them. And they were, again, put their trust in us. And we started the process then, engaging with printers, and display contracts. Huge shout out to Eddie in Display Contracts, who had really got great patience with us, brought all our ideas onto paper, and gave us an example of a board, and he went to work on that. And we wanted the boards to be A0 size, so they're really, really big. So then health and safety came into it. So we had to work then with health and safety and campus service to ensure that with the Irish weather, everything would be safe and the exhibition would stay upright. So again, back to Eddie, we went to Maynooth and we viewed the sample board, and it was really amazing. We were really happy with it. The only thing we weren't happy with was the safety procedures that had to go with it. We went back to Eddie again and he sorted all that out for us and encased everything in a board. So now we have an exhibition that can be used, displayed on grass, on concrete, inside, outside. So whoever wants to host the exhibition can. And as you said, the exhibition launched in Maynooth on Tuesday the 26th. We had it installed on Friday the 22nd, and from the moment the exhibition was fully installed, the reaction we got from the pupils that were on campus that day was really powerful. So I think Declan is going to share the launch of the exhibition.
Thanks, Karen.
It was a great way to kind of get a message across, such a strong and important message of how, you know, refugees experience discrimination and racism in Ireland.
When you see like these exhibitions, these pictures, when you read it through, it just like makes you feel different.
It's about connecting with the emotions and putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Even for the 20 minutes it might take you to walk through the exhibition and really feel what it's like for people who are hidden.
We're so proud to be involved in the whole College Connect and to have the exhibition launch here at Maynooth University.
I think it makes us more aware of the people that are around us.
Any human that listens or watches or reads the outcome of this research will act on it.
I'm not unmuted. Thanks a million, Karen, and I think you played down all that went into the logistics of organising that exhibition, so fair play to you. And Alketa and Tyron, it's great to see you, and you did so much work on the We Are Here website, which you're going to share with us now, and Tyron on the amazing design, which just looks absolutely gorgeous. So do you want to open up the website and take people through what it looks like or what they can expect to see if they log on to wearehere.ie?
Yeah, perfect. Do I have the permissions to share my screen? Yeah, I do. Hello everyone. So this is the We Are Here website. So when you first go into wearehere.ie, you'll be brought to our homepage, and the first thing you'll see is the link to the deconstructed video by the talented Feli Speaks. So then we have an about section, kind of explaining the We Are Here project and all of our project team, and yeah. And then the next tab is the exhibition tab. So that has it's our main thing, the exhibition by all of the participants. So if you scroll here, you can see all of the different exhibits and photo voices. And then here is the exhibition map and the future dates that are to be confirmed. And then the next page is the training, which I think Alketa will talk about. And then we have the jargon buster. So obviously there's a lot of terminology that we hear about, but sometimes we don't know. So here is a list of some of the terminology in the report and research that explains kind of everything in more detail. And then lastly here is some of the useful contacts that asylum seekers or refugees can contact. And then I believe, sorry, the screen's here. Oh, and then we have the Dear Afghanistan section where you can send prayers to people in Afghanistan. So yeah, essentially that's there. And then I think Alcata is going to talk more about the training resources.
Yeah. So thanks, Taran, and welcome everyone. Just before starting the training, I just want to stress the importance of this project because it was a collaborative process with people who have come through the protection process. And we are here is just about raising awareness and about presence of refugees in Ireland and bringing their voices into public spaces to highlight some of the challenging they experience. You mentioned, Charlotte, about how it's so sad about like how refugees and asylum seekers do live in isolation, and what is more sad is about the fact that we also are so isolated from being able to learn more from them and about their life experience. And this was the whole point of this project, to just make Irish people more aware of other people cultures, and also about the challenges that many faces. And also this allow for someone who is like learning and studying with people from different cultures. I felt really grateful that I took part of this research, because it allowed me to have an open mind, and also to have a different perspective on my life, and also to kind of think more of what should I do and how can I help more people to integrate in Irish societies, and how I can learn from them as well. And also that's why I think it's so important, and I would like advise anyone to come to the exhibitions, to go through the website and just like to read through the stories, the real stories that come from Irish refugees, and not base their thoughts or stereotypical comments in what media sometimes portray refugees. In terms of the jargon buster, we as a trained team try to include terms which thought people will find it useful. When people know what's the difference between a refugee and asylum seekers, they also are more aware of the fact that they do not have the same rights in Ireland. And this maybe will help them out how they can help each one of asylum seekers or refugees. We also explain some of the education terms and what they mean, and then we offer some guidance in terms of what financial support is available for people who are going through the process and do not have the means, but they would love to continue their third level education in Ireland. And in terms of Taran mentioned about the Dear Afghanistan, there are some, I read some lovely letter that people have written, and the Irish Refugee Council are doing an amazing job to help people that are currently in Afghanistan facing really bad, poor conditions, be that humanitarian crisis. And if any of you would like to donate, there's a link provided there as well.
Thank you so much, Alcata, and yourself and Tyra did so much working on this website over the summer and turning it around. And a big shout out to the Public Service Innovation Fund who funded this project for us. Thank you so much, guys. And last but not least on this panel is Zoriana Chick. And Zoriana, it's lovely to see you, and thank you for joining us. I'm sure you don't need an introduction, but Zoriana is just the most wonderful educator, and she worked a lot with the training materials on the We Are Here website. And one of those is a conversation between yourself and Lillian Nwansi, who everybody saw earlier on, where you discuss race and racism. And I love this resource. It's a 40-minute dialogue that people can play and then use to spark a conversation in their organizations about race and racism. And there's a part in that video where you say, Zoriana, that when you were living in direct provision, that you thought that the management treated your family better because of your niceness, and then you realized it wasn't your niceness but your whiteness that, I was wondering, would you share a bit about this resource for us? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you so much. So, yes, you know, when we facilitated the research with participants, we've heard a lot of stories about racism and discrimination, from as simple as microaggression to as tough and hard on people that traumatize them for life. And you know, living in Irish society, we hear this narrative that Irish society is not racist society, and we want to believe in it, you know, but it might be true for white people, but not for those who experience racism. And we have to listen to experiences of people to understand what is happening in society. So, and racism is deeply inherent to societal structures everywhere in the whole world. So what we've tried to do is to create this dialogue about our experiences of Lillian and I, very different experiences, but reflecting on understanding, maybe first time understanding that racism exists and what it is like to experience it, or discrimination as well. Essentially what we are trying to do is to normalize conversations about racism, because we feel that it is not enough, especially, you know, like I know a lot of work is being done, but we feel that to deconstruct racism, we can do so much more as a society. So we are hoping that this conversation, and hopefully maybe series of conversations in the future, will be a source for educators, for you know, secondary school teachers, higher education, further education, to start conversations about racism in their classes, in their sessions, and to start, I suppose, to share the stories like we sharing, and to start uncovering and tackling the racists in ourselves, because we are all culturally conditioned, and sometimes you know, there's things that we believe in. We believe maybe that we are not racist, but because we are so deeply conditioned, we might think we are not doing, you know, we are doing good things, but in fact we might still be deeply racist. So in my own case, as I was saying in the video, I've lived with women from around the world in the direct provision, and I was calling them my sisters, and I always felt, you know, that we were in this unity, in this solidarity. And on the day where you know, through education, I found out about white privilege, I felt sick. I absolutely felt you know, really upset with myself that I was so blind about my own experience, about this, you know, niceness that I thought that this is what supports me through life, but unfortunately it was my whiteness and not niceness. So yeah, if, you know, I hope that this resource is going to be valuable for educators. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Zoriana. That was brilliant. And of course, Tyron, Alketa and Karen for sharing the We Are Here project. I think it's the benefit of this particular project will run on for a long time. You know, I think it's only the beginning. I think a lot of people will be able to use this resource in their own areas of work in the months and years ahead, possibly. And we look forward to seeing it on campuses around the country over next semester, hopefully. You know, there'll be a whole timetable up on the website. I just want to say at this moment in time that for everyone's benefit, we're running a little bit late, but we're going to keep going, if that's okay. We're on schedule to finish for about 5:15 at the moment, and we're going to keep going because we're recording this, and it's a really important resource, and it's really important to hear everybody's voices. So please bear with us if you can. We'd really appreciate it. We have one more panel to go. Will I just go on ahead with that panel, Sarah, do you think, yeah? You don't want to come in there?
I think so. No, I think so. Just to say, the We Are Here project will be in DCU in 2022. It was supposed to be in TUS Athlone in November, but because of the rising numbers, unfortunately, we've had to postpone it till 2022. But keep an eye on the website, and it will. And somebody in the chat said that it would be so important to see this in direct provision centres, and that's absolutely the intention with this project. So if anyone in the audience is connected with direct provision centres, please go onto the website and get in touch with us. And this is the beginning of a conversation, and we'd love to work with you. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Sarah. So our fourth and final panel today is about University of Sanctuary. I'm delighted to welcome representatives from the University of Sanctuary committees of the 4 colleges involved in College Connect. University of Sanctuary is an initiative to encourage and celebrate, I suppose, good practice within universities and colleges and other educational institutes around the country. And the whole idea is to help and support them in finding ways to welcome refugees, people seeking asylum and other migrants into the university community, and to foster a culture of welcome and inclusion for those who are seeking sanctuary. And obtaining the designation of University of Sanctuary is not an easy thing. You know, there's a lot of work that has to go into that. It's not just a matter of providing scholarships, even though scholarships are vitally important, but there's a lot more. But I will leave my esteemed colleagues to explain that to you better. So I will introduce you to Dr. Veronica Crosby, who's an assistant professor of migration and intercultural studies in DCU. Veronica was instrumental in establishing DCU as the first University of Sanctuary in Ireland in 2016. And she also more recently co-facilitated the establishment of NOMADS, which is the Network of Migration and Diversity Studies within DCU. I'd also like to welcome Cliona Murphy. Cliona teaches and researches in the area of migration law, human rights, international law and company law in Maynooth University. Maynooth University began the groundwork to become a University of Sanctuary in 2018, and they received their designation in 2020. And Cliona also chairs the Maynooth University Sanctuary Committee. Equally delighted to welcome Dr. Coletta Dalkenny. Coletta is a lecturer in social care in Dundalk, IT, and the co-founder of the Welcome Project, which is working towards College of Sanctuary status at Dundalk IT. Coletta is involved in several community projects aimed at promoting collaboration between DKIT community of students and staff and the wider community. She's currently involved in a collaborative Erasmus Plus funded EU project aimed at social inclusion of asylum seekers and refugees in Ireland. And last but no means least, we have Dr. Chris McDermott. Chris joins us from what was Athlone Institute of Technology. He joined in 2004, now TUS, Technological University Shannon. He teaches in areas of child law, family law and human rights law. He's a qualified attorney at law in New York and a legal consultant with New Horizon, which is an asylum seeker and refugee support group. So TUS was the first recipient of College of Sanctuary status, and Chris leads the community for the integration of asylum seekers and refugees in TUS. TUS was the first college of sanctuary, first and only college, it was the only IT to have received sanctuary designation. So we're hopeful as the ITs all evolve into technological universities that this will, you know, the snowball is rolling, so hopefully it'll keep going. So I'm delighted to see all of you. My work crosses over with all of you all the time in relation to University of Sanctuary scholarships. And I really want to highlight how important University of Sanctuary, how important this group is in promoting access to higher education for people within the protection process. So Veronica, I'm going to come to you first because you're a key person in bringing the University of Sanctuary to Ireland and establishing DCU as the first University of Sanctuary. So could I ask you to tell us a little bit about how that came about in the first place? And secondly, how this research is going to help you further your work within DCU.
Thanks, Charlotte. Welcome, everybody. It's lovely to be here on this panel. And I have to say, Charlotte, you're playing a blinder, a wonderful chair today at this session. I think it's fantastic. And Charlotte she's just a real mover and shaker in the Irish landscape in access to higher education. So just a shout out for you there, Charlotte.
Stop it.
So I was told I think 4 minutes, and I have 4 points I want to make, and timekeeping is not my best. So Charlotte, play your chair role to a T and kick me out when I'm
do my best. Do my best.
So, so first of all, I was going to talk about DCU's pathway to being a University of Sanctuary, and then I'm going to look at the solidarity and recognition across the board, and then issues, highlight some issues, and then just looking at the role of university. So first of all, our pathway in DCU, back in 2016, I was conducting some research with women in direct provision centres. And it became very clear to me, in particular from women who were mothers who had children in the school system in Ireland, that once they'd finished secondary school and their peers were all, you know, making plans for where they wanted to study, while everybody was, you know, registering their interest in different courses, people in direct provision centres had the sense of, you know, it's not for me. And one woman in particular, she was, you know, she was really crying out and saying that she feared for her daughter's well-being, that she was, she'd gone into a terrible decline, depression. And, you know, when you hear a story like that, it really shakes you. And I went back to DCU, I knocked on doors, and luckily I did manage to find a scholarship for that individual. But I felt you know, that person was lucky. I happened to hear a story, etc., etc. And if we're looking at an open democratic society, it shouldn't be based on who you know. There should be access to everyone. So with a wonderful colleague who was in DCU at the time, Philip McKinley, who'd been doing fantastic work as a chaplain in supporting refugees, we got together, and thanks to support from Tiffy Allen and Places of Sanctuary Ireland, we started building plans. We had a fair wind. You know, the whole refugee so-called crisis was in the media a lot at the time. Senior management in DCU were persuaded by the rhetoric, the narratives, and they said, yes, go for it. So it was kind of pushing an open door in many ways, and DCU did show that openness and recognition of those challenges that were there. So what did we see as barriers? We saw fees, maintenance and transport were the key barriers for young people, or not just young, I shouldn't be ageist there, but for people accessing higher education. And so we set about establishing a scholarship program where we were offering one scholarship per faculty at undergrad level. And we did a costing on everything from how much would a bus cost, for example, from Mosney to DCU. You know, we all the deans came together, we sat down and we looked to see how can we scale this up then if we offer it over 3 years with an intake every year. And so we started that off, and our then president was not media shy, and so there was a lot of media attention, and other universities were kind of knocking on our door saying, how did you do what you did? And we had a webinar in the following summer, and 32 people joined it. And this is pre-COVID, pre-Zoom, when these online events weren't so common. And so there was great interest and sharing of our knowledge. And Chris was there sharing on the work that AIT had done, and UL as well. And later that year, we established the University of Sanctuary Ireland network, which is still going. It's a wonderful, vibrant group to work with. I've really enjoyed, you know, that my role in helping there. So that solidarity and recognition is very important for getting us off the ground. We found that others were taking note. For example, when the new government was being formed, in their programme for government, universities of sanctuary were mentioned. And then when Simon Harris came in, you know, he looked to expand the grant scheme for those accessing higher education. So I'd like to think we did play a role there in help, you know, in helping, encouraging the government to do better. So it's a competition who can outdo each other, and we keep upping the stakes. So it's a win-win for everybody. So issues that we identified, however, were and that I'm seeing now, you know, once you have the accolade of being a university of sanctuary, there can be a danger that it becomes a tick box exercise, or it can become hollowed out, or significant individuals, you know, might leave their positions. So the sustainability of a program like this is really important, in particular when other players come in to support, just as I mentioned with the government. But I have to emphasize, it's not just about scholarships. They are, you know, the flagship aspect, but there are other, if we look at the concept of sanctuary, it's all about learning, it's all about taking action, and it's all about sharing what it means to seek asylum in a country, to be a refugee. And so the integration process is one that is ongoing. And while sanctuary may be becoming embedded in our university structures, they can also get buried as well as being embedded. The access program is running, and it's seen maybe as an adjunct to that. Whereas we know that for the cohort, you know, in this case, people who are protection applicants, people with refugee backgrounds, there are what is known by Lambrechts in a study in 2020 as super disadvantaged people. It's often because of lack of information, and that's been highlighted wonderfully in the research that's coming out of the College Connect project. There are procedural issues. How do I get to that, you know, get on that path to become it? There are the financial barriers we've looked at. There's the whole newcomer aspect. You know, you may be new to the culture, you don't know how things work. There's the whole environmental situation. If you're living in a direct provision centre and you're trying to go to college, and certainly last year, the challenges during lockdown, how do you do assignments when you're sharing rooms with others? And the whole educational piece, you know, and that's been already acknowledged, you know, are your former and prior learning experiences being recognised or not? I don't want to sound off, you know, end on a very negative note, because I think there are positives. As I've said, there are, you know, we can see that the government is, you know, looking to up its game. And I hope Simon Harris gets to, you know, to listen back to this webinar at some point. But there are opportunities. Widening participation programs are, you know, coming, they're strengthening across the board. And in DCU, Karina Curley is doing wonderful work in that regard. And she's an amazing mentor to the college students. We also have programs like our Pathways to Employment program, and we're going to bring in a kind of mentorship so that scholarship students can become ambassadors, and Tiffy Allen has already started that wonderful work. We also have projects like the Melly Storytelling Project in DCU, which is going into its 5th iteration, and we're becoming more closely aligned with the Museum of Modern Art, with Emma. We also use photo voice and participatory methods, so we're chiming all the way with you there. And I think it's brilliant, the participatory arts-based approaches, because it's where you win hearts and minds together. So I'm sure I've gone well over my 5 minutes. Charlotte, thank you for being generous there. And yeah, I just to finish, to say that it is important that universities they are a public good. We have to constantly remind ourselves of that. And the mission is transforming lives by expanding the opportunities and capabilities of all the members of its society. So developing a voice, developing agency, developing these for a just society is something that we have to keep working on. So I'll end there. Thank you.
Thanks, Veronica. You might have gone over a little bit, but I didn't want to stop you because, as I said, we're recording, so we didn't want to lose any of it. But you're absolutely right. Sustainability is key. I remember when Philip McKinley told me he was leaving DCU, I was crushed because I thought, my God, you know, what'll happen when he leaves? But it just goes to show you, if it's there, and you can keep it going, you know. Equally, you're right. Simon Harris has been, I hope he does listen to it. We did send him the link, although he was very busy today. And I hope he listens, because he has done a great job here for us in the last 12 to 18 months. So I'll stop rambling and I will move on. And I would like to introduce Chris McDermott from TUS. And Chris, if I could ask you similarly, you know, what's happening at the moment in TUS, in the Athlone campus with regards to support for refugees, and how do you think this research might help you further that agenda?
Sure, thank you, Charlotte and Sarah and all your team. Education can transform lives, and that's why this research is really so crucial. So thank you for your work. In terms of the development of AIT, now TUS, as a university of sanctuary, when the direct provision system was announced in the late 90s or early 2000s, Athlone was designated as a host town. And I think so people's initial thoughts were, you know, this is a terrible idea. You know, haven't these people already suffered enough? And now you're putting them into obviously, I'm joking. The good people of Athlone set about creating a support group, which has evolved into quite a significant charity called New Horizon. And because the Athlone Accommodation Centre, the Direct Provision Centre, is about a mile from the AIT or former AIT campus, very quickly, very good links developed between New Horizon and the Institute. And we were able to cooperate in a number of areas that provided support to the direct provision residents at a kind of a basic level. For example, the Institute was able to host an annual children's Christmas party. Staff and students were able to collect an annual Christmas hamper. And similarly, there were other kind of initiatives that related to providing various social services and trying to include the residents into the life of the college. In 2016, 2017, the college then established a University of Sanctuary Committee. And the idea was to further enhance the work that had been going on up to that point. Out of the University of Sanctuary Committee evolved a kind of an online education program that we were able to establish. Now, this was in the days before sanctuary scholarships and before access to the labour market. So it was, things in direct provision, I think, were even more dismal than they are now, in the sense that the residents really wanted opportunities to get off the site and to engage in normal activities that the rest of us take for granted. So the online program, the online education program that we established, involved bringing students or residents on site every Friday and giving them lunch and tea and coffee, and then through lecturers who were volunteering their time, we brought them to various MOOCs, massive online open courses that were already pre-established. The idea of scholarships was muted at the time, but there was kind of caution, I think, in the Institute. They were a little bit concerned about the attitude of the Department of Justice and the Department of Education to granting scholarships. But then, thanks to people like Veronica Crosby and her friends in DCU, they were all over the papers, having got University of Sanctuary status and having these scholarships. And we all know those people in DCU are really clever. So if they can give scholarships, then it must be lawful and it must be okay. So kind of from that, our College of Sanctuary Scholarships evolved. And I think we were fortunate in the sense that our first scholarship recipient was a guy called Sam from South Africa, who had been trafficked into Ireland and was living in direct provision. So Sam became our first sanctuary scholar, but he was a really warm, charismatic, charming kind of a guy. So he became the face of the asylum seekers in the area, and people were kind of, any concerns they had about, you know, who are these people, I think quickly evolved when they had the opportunity to spend some time with Sam. From that moment on, kind of from 2017, 2018, we've been able to increase the number of scholarships, and at the moment we offer 7 undergraduate scholarships on the Athlone campus, and the Limerick campus, so the former LIT, offers between 9 and 14 undergraduate scholarships each year. So between TUS as a whole, there's now 20 undergraduate scholarships offered on an annual basis, which is something that we are proud of and we need to keep going. In terms of access to the campus, we were aware that some people were finding it very difficult to, you know, cover transportation costs, and as one of the speakers alluded to earlier, difficulty in terms of, you know, missing breakfast, lunch and dinner in the Direct Provision Centre. So scholarship recipients get €40 a week as a stipend to cover food, and if they're commuting from outside of Athlone, they get an additional €40 to help with transportation costs. They also have access to our university laptop for loan scheme and complimentary access to our gym and sporting facilities. That's in an effort to try to further integrate the scholars that are on campus into campus life. Because one thing that is really obvious from dealing with these students for the last couple of years is they don't tell us about their problems. I think they have a sense that they're lucky to be there. And while we don't feel that, we feel they have a right to be there, this is their personal sense that there almost has to be apologetic, or that they have to be, you know, not really getting anybody's way. And then when they have serious problems, they don't kind of come and tell us about those problems. So that's sort of one of the reasons why this research is really so valuable. And while I think that universities and institutes now have an obligation to do your work, Sarah, justice, and the experiences of the participants justice, in ensuring that our future sanctuary programs are framed based on the findings of your research. So at the moment in TUS, we're still in sort of our infancy in terms of establishing the structures to continue the College of Sanctuary movement across both campuses. But we're hoping that we'll be able to build on what has been achieved so far, and hopefully broaden further access to university life in TUS for people in the international protection process.
Thanks so much, Chris. Well, you were the first shining light in the IT area, and hopefully TUS will be the first shining light in the technological university area, you know, so if you lead, others will follow, as we've seen time and time again. There were a couple of things that struck me when you were talking. One was the idea that people felt they were lucky to be there and they couldn't ask for any further help, you know, for fear of drawing attention to themselves. And I think that's an area that, you know, once you've given somebody a scholarship, that's, you know, that's the next thing that you need to appreciate, I suppose, is it's not just about paying the fees, it's about checking in with them regularly to find out, are they okay, and are they getting lost on that journey so they don't drop out, you know. You're absolutely right. And the other thing I was struck by when I was listening to you talking was that I slightly feel like I'm talking to the converted here, you know, because you guys are all the good guys, you know, you've all got the scholarships and you've all got your sanctuary designation. So I think it's really important that we take this research and present it to the people who haven't, you know, jumped on board as such, you know. So thank you for that. I'll move on to Coletta Dalkenny. Coletta, if I could ask you to tell us similarly what might be going on in Dundalk IT with regard to support for refugees, and how do you think that this research might be able to help you further that cause?
Thank you, Charlotte, and thank you, Sarah, for having me on the panel. Great to see Chris and Claudia and Veronica. And so just in at DKIT, we started thinking about the idea of sanctuary when I had finished my PhD and looking at the experiences of asylum seekers in direct provision. And so I heard about sanctuary and I brought it to the college, and I started speaking. A colleague of mine, Benny Breton, we sat down and we were talking about Sanctuary. We went to read about it and to do a bit of research on what really Sanctuary was. And so we connected with Veronica and with Tiffy and others who were working on Sanctuary, people who were kind of ahead of us. We wanted to see how they started. So we invited folks who were progressing with Sanctuary to talk to us about their journey, what they had done to get to where they had got. And we realized that part of us engaging in the work of Sanctuary was really to create a culture of welcome and to create awareness about the issues that people in direct provision were facing. So we spent quite some time just engaging with our management and engaging with staff at DKIT and engaging with students, our cohort of students. And so we have put a lot of time in just talking about Sanctuary and kind of inviting others to talk to us. We have also invited students from Mosney and other neighboring places to exchange with our students at DKIT, an exchange of ideas around what their experiences are. So in that way, raising awareness. In terms of the activities that we have also been trying to do so that we can meet the criteria for Sanctuary, one of the things that we did, which involves the whole community at DKIT and outside of DKIT, was the Secret Santa. We have done that a couple of years where we have a Secret Santa, and we would go then to direct provision where staff at DKIT and students have put together some gifts that we could exchange with people and sit and have conversations. We have also been managed recently to have 2 scholarships, one which offers fee support for those eligible for the student support, and the other one which offers support for people who are ineligible for the free fees only by the reason that they are not in the country for 3 years. So sometimes there is a gap there and those people are left out. We have also started an equality, diversity and inclusion. We have an inclusion, diversity and equality officer who has been recently appointed. And we are hoping that the appointment of that officer is going to help us to push more, to be able to do more activities in relation to reaching out and inviting people in direct provision and opening up more spaces, more education spaces. In terms of what we will do with the research and how this research can help, I just like the idea that the research is evidence-based and is a very creative piece of research where our management and people who are supporting us don't have to sit and read reams and reams of paper, of research, that they can sit and watch the creativity that has come out from paper, as you were saying, Charlotte, into the creative space where there's poetry and where there's really, when you look at those clips of videos, they move you to think about direct provision and the young people who are there who need access to education and what we can do ourselves at DKIT. So the research is a powerful piece of research, and thanks to you, to your team for putting it together, because I think it's going to help a lot. It will help us a lot to move on more to a more active space. I think during COVID, we managed to reach out to people in RD, the centers, the accommodation centers in RD and in Dundalk, And we were able to, even though COVID was an issue, we were able to find mechanisms to reach out and support as much as we could. So again, it's early days for us. We are aspiring to the sanctuary. We have called ourselves the Welcome Team Committee at DKIT. We are fostering a culture of committee, a culture of welcome. And yeah, so I think that this research is very welcome, and it's powerful piece of work. Nothing about us without us. It's really really very inspiring to see research that's led by people with lived experience of being in direct provision, because I think that has got a different impact than people just talking about direct provision. So there is a strong base to it, which I think we can draw from, and we can present and say 21 years on, direct provision is there. And as a college, what are we doing? It will be a good way of putting the mirror to ourselves as we progress and aspire to being a college of sanctuary. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Colette. I totally agree, and you're doing great work up there. And if there's anything that any of us can do to support you in the University of Sanctuary, I'm sure I speak for Veronica and all the Sanctuary Committee, do reach out, because we're here to support you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'd now like to call upon Cliona Murphy from Maynooth University as our final speaker on this panel. And again, Cliona, I'd like to ask you what's going on in Maynooth, and if you could tell us how this research will support you guys.
Thanks very much. Hi everyone, and thanks everyone for all the brilliant presentations so far. I do feel I'm at a bit of a disadvantage being the very last person among all these amazing panelists and presentations, but thanks for the opportunity to be here. I think, as Sarah mentioned, I was really privileged to be part of the advisory group for the research, and I also peer reviewed the final report. So just to kind of reiterate that from an academic perspective, this research is both rigorous and truly participatory. So I think that it needs to be read, heard, engaged with in a variety of different ways. And we've seen the huge wealth of materials that have been produced from the research project. And I think that we all need to think about different ways that we can actually use these materials to their full potential. So as Veronica mentioned, University of Sanctuary definitely isn't just about sanctuary scholarships. And I think universities of sanctuary should really follow, and they do follow, a number of key principles. And the first of those is learning. So learning what it means to be seeking sanctuary, reminding our students and others that these are important social justice and human rights issues, some of the most important of our times. So with all that in mind, I thought that it might be useful in my contribution just to reflect very briefly on how we might use the community needs analysis and the broader We Are Here project as a teaching tool as educators. And I have actually done this myself this year with a cohort of students. So I teach a module on migration and human rights to fourth year law students, and we learn the basic principles of international and domestic refugee law. We consider the human rights issues that may be faced by people who cross borders. So this year, having been sort of kind of tangentially involved with this research, I decided to bring the students as part of their course on a local field trip these days with COVID, to the photo exhibition that was on Maynooth's North Campus. And my goal was that to try and get the students engaged with the research findings and the project, to introduce them to some of the issues that are arising, and really that they would better understand and engage with the ways in which laws and policies, especially those relating to direct provision, affect people's lives, including people who are their colleagues as students on the university campus. So Sarah then very kindly visited our class, and she gave us a guest lecture on the project and some of the findings. And the students really engaged with this, and I think that they found the photo voices displayed on campus really moving and also really informative. So it provoked a lot of questions for me about, well, why couldn't people get out of the direct provision centre until a certain time in the morning? Why did people have to jump fences to get transport to get to university? And I think that their feedback to me was that it brought to life what we had been discussing in class on human rights issues raised by the direct provision system. So I might just show you, I have a little slide with my lovely students that I'll just share with you. So you can see them here. I don't know if you can see that, but that was us. We set off one day. It wasn't one of the days that the storm was raging on Maynooth campus. And you can see us there at the exhibition. And so what I'm doing to try and tie it together is that you can see on the right hand side there, it is going to be a question on their exam at the end of the semester, asking them to write a review of the exhibition and kind of reflecting on the human rights issues that arise. And look, I'll tell you how they get on. Hopefully this is a success, but I just thought it might be useful to share that as a way to kind of consider the different ways that we can kind of engage with this really important work that you're doing. So sorry, I didn't really get to say much about what Maynooth is doing, but I think I'll leave it there in the interests of time. So thanks a million.
Thanks a million. Thanks, Cliona. That was brilliant, and actually really brilliant to see that the exhibition, you've already used it in teaching and learning, and as it goes around the other campuses, well then maybe other people can follow your great lead with that. I must say, from my own perspective, it's been a great privilege to work with everybody in University of Sanctuary these last few years. I think, Veronica, you're right. I think collectively we've achieved a lot. I think there's still much more work that we can do, and I think it's just a matter of putting one foot in front of the other and keep going, keep going, keep going. Sometimes it feels like you're not making progress, but actually, if you look back 5 years ago, none of this was here, none of it. So thank you all for that.
Thank you so much, everybody. And I know I promised Veronica that she would be out of here before 5 o'clock, before she was teaching, and I'm really conscious that we didn't achieve that. So I'm so sorry to everybody. We had some technical issues at the beginning that's caused us to run late, but it was amazing to listen to everybody's contribution here. And I just loved what Coletta said, to put the mirror on ourselves, and that will really stick with me. Thank you for that. And just to provide the closing remarks then for today's event. And again, apologies, Rose and Nick, for us going over time. We've Nick Henderson, who is the CEO of the Irish Refugee Council, and we're delighted to have you here today, and Dr. Rose Ryan, who is the Head of Access in Maynooth University Access Programme. And Nick, would you like to give some reflections on the event today?
Yeah, thanks so much, Sarah. I think the logo's back to front.
No, it's fine.
No, it looks perfect from this side, yeah.
Wow, what an afternoon, and thank you so much to the College Connect team, who came to us maybe more than a year ago with an idea, and Charlotte and I immediately were interested, and you've taken it beyond our expectations as a piece of work. And we're really, really grateful to everybody who's been involved in this. I'm going to say only a couple of things. And firstly, just a remark on how much of a rich and deep methodology that came through on the report, but also so much on today's I'm not going to call it a conference, I'm not going to call it a meeting, but just a really wonderfully rich and interesting afternoon. Sinead's poem seems quite far back, but it's worth going back to that. Felicia's beautiful words, powerful words. I feel like I've been at a concert, at a RTE Arena radio show interview, at a really interesting academic conference. So both in the report itself and in the event, it's been such a wonderfully rich piece of work, and I'd really thank you for that. And just flicking through the chat comments as well, I'm sure that's what the participants are feeling as well. Second thing I'm going to say is that this, I hope, and I think it will be, should be a new beginning and a start. So many voices can come together around education. It is so powerful. And we all spoke about it in different ways. And I think there is a possibility for a real drive now to push ahead and to improve, to continue to improve how we welcome people in Ireland who are seeking sanctuary from persecution, and how we can enable and support people to access higher and further education. And the final thing I'll say is that we have to do that. We have to do that for somebody who we don't yet know their name, but they're on their way to Ireland. They may be coming from Afghanistan, from Syria. They may be somebody who is on the border of Poland and Belarus at the moment, who may somehow, despite everything, get to Ireland and try to begin their new life. And it's very likely that that person will have an interest in education. And despite all the problems around direct provision that we know of, and we've spoken about our asylum process, education has the power to change everything. So we have to keep going. We have to build on what amazing things have been achieved by universities, institutes of technology, but most of all by individuals, people, students, by our peer researchers have been so insightful. So we have to keep going for that person or for that family who are coming as we speak, may have just arrived in Ireland, maybe at Dublin Airport now trying to seek asylum, maybe about to go into quarantine. We have to keep going for that person, for that family. So just want to finish there, hand back to Sarah and Charlotte. Thank you for your chairing, and thanks everybody for attending as well.
Thanks so much, Nick, and thank you for your support over the last 18, 20 months while this has been going on. I'm sure I was like a little fly in your ear. College Connect, you know. But
never
anyway,
a fly.
It was worth it. It was worth it when you see the what we've produced or what the guys have produced from it. So thank you for that. So now I'd like to introduce Dr. Rose Ryan. She's going to provide the final closing remarks to what's been a really wonderful event today. I think you'd all agree. So Dr. Rose Ryan is Director of Access at Maynooth University. She has responsibility for leading strategic change in relation to access and widening participation in higher education. She's also the chair of College Connect Regional Steering Group. So I've met with Rose a lot over the last couple of years. And Rose, it's been a wonderful event, I have to say, and I'll leave it to you to close it.
Thank you so much, Charlotte and Sarah, and what a wonderful event. I'm sure many of us here have been at the launches of lots of research, but to have a piece of research brought to life in such a powerful and a visceral way it's really, really unique and very unusual. So really what I wanted to speak to was the policy implications of this research. And I think there are many people that will have participated here and they'll have listened and been really impressed. And I hope that their minds have been changed by the evidence that's now in front of them. But I'm always struck by what happens next. And so I want to speak just about the policy implications, and effectively it's a call to action. So my role is the chair of the College Connect Regional Steering Group, and on that steering group there are the representatives of each of the four institutions, and I just want to specifically mention Karina Curley from DCU, Eileen Lynch from Dundalk, and also Jenny Cooper Burke from the Athlone campus of the Technological University of the Shannon. But also on that steering group is the Irish Refugee Council, the Pathway Centre for Prisoners, the National Traveller Women's Forum, One Family Ireland, Disability Louth, as well as the 4 HEIs. So what I identified for you, for each person who's here really, is 6 things that you can do, either individually, institutionally, regionally, or nationally with these recommendations. And I'm very struck by what Cliona had said about the quality of the evidence base. So I think the first thing that we really need to do, all of us, is to build on this evidence base. And as you know, we've already produced a really powerful piece of work in relation to the educational experiences of prisoners and people with experience of the prison system. This is the second CNA, but you may be interested to know that there are 2 further ones in progress. One specifically in relation to the experiences of travellers, and a second one in relation to the experience of students in the FET sector. So my first piece of advice really is to use this research, build on the research, and continue to build this powerful and unique evidence base, which is led, directed, and informed by the experiences of people within the system themselves. We're not telling them what they need, they're telling us what they need, and it behoves us to respond to that. And I think what we've learned from the research is that these communities are highly marginalized. And what I'm always struck by when I see the research is the commonality of their experiences, even though there are some differences. So they often speak of trauma, about mental health, about lack of access. But I suppose I want to point out, and it was also mentioned earlier, about these communities are the most stigmatized also. And they experience really intersectional vulnerabilities and disadvantage. And that's really important to take into account. The second thing I think that we can do with the research is you need to connect to champions. And that's either within your own institution, either through the Universities of Sanctuary initiative and other initiatives and champions across your institutions to bring them together to form an institutional strategy. But you can also link to champions in other institutions and bring them together as we have in the MEND cluster. So look internally and externally. The University of Sanctuary really has provided this amazing model and bringing them together. And if we look at what's changing at a national policy level, there's the expansion of the Student Support Scheme for protection applicants, but we also have the forthcoming publication of the HERE Review, which is also identifying that young people living in direct provision need to be acknowledged as among Ireland's most disadvantaged cohorts. And so you see policy starting to come together in different areas. So seek to connect that policy into a tangible way within your own department, within your own institutions. The third thing that I would say that we can all do is to listen and learn. We didn't have the answers, but these reports provide a lot of the answers for us. We don't need to ask more questions. What we need to do is act on what we have. And what we found out today is the multiple nature of the barriers faced, as well as the enablers, and the powerful emphasis that there is on the opportunities of education to create and transform people's lives and opportunities. So think about what we learned about the lack of access to childcare, about hunger and poverty. Think about what it's like for all of your previous academic achievements to be disregarded. Think about what it's like to be highly stigmatized. Think about what it's like to live physically on the margins of society, not to be able to struggle with transport to educational provisions, and think about what it's like to try to navigate complex bureaucratic systems. We heard earlier about mind the gap, and it's a really powerful metaphor if you think about it. All the things we take for granted that we've learned all our lives, that's new for people. The fourth thing I think that we should do is you should seek to influence national policy. It's really important that we take evidence like this and that it becomes translated into national policy. We're currently awaiting the publication of a new national access plan. And I think the recognition of those with the experience of forced migration as a target group in the new National Access Plan would recognise the entrenched disadvantage of this group. And I think collaboration, as we have done through College Connect, and as you can see in this particular piece of research, with the Universities of Sanctuary Ireland, with the Irish Refugee Council, as well as with other partners, they're really fantastic examples of how we can harness other social inclusion initiatives outside of higher education and use them to seek to support equity of access objectives. And I think they're really important. The fifth thing I think that we need to do is to use the recommendations to change policy and practice. And you'll have seen from the first community needs analysis around prisoners, a highly stigmatized group, what we were able to do as a region from the development of the Mountjoy Prison and the Maynooth University partnership, the Unlocking Potential project, the Mountjoy Prison Story Exchange in collaboration with GASHCA, and now in collaboration with the Probation Service, we have a scholarship scheme that we're going to have across the MEND region for people with experience with criminal convictions. And that's really powerful, tangible change. In my experience working with people that are the most disadvantaged, They're interested in policy, but what they actually want is practical and tangible change on the ground. They want to change in their opportunities for themselves and for the lives of their children. And I think it was really important, that issue about bringing the voices, the reality of the communities, and bringing that into a tangible way into conversations within your own institution. And the sixth thing that I would really ask people to do is to act on the recommendations. And so there's a regional commitment in College Connect across the 4 MEND HEIs, and we've committed in our action plan and our regional plan to actioning and to embedding the findings and recommendations across the region. And I think this programme has demonstrated what can be achieved by 4 higher education institutions not working in conflict, not working in competition, but recognising the commonality of the experiences of the most marginalised and the most disadvantaged communities, and what we can do together as 4 institutions. And I think this research, it certainly has taught me a great deal. And it can tell all of us a great deal about marginalisation and about racism, but also what we can do as HEIs to hear their voices and to work together to create opportunities to broaden access to higher education. And I really look forward to working with all of our partners, both internally and externally, and using this really outstanding evidence base to hopefully progress those 6 action points, and look forward to working with all of you on that. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Rose, and thanks so much, Nick, and thank you very much for wrapping up the event so beautifully and helping us reflect on what can be done in practice. And really, this is, I suppose, it's the beginning in some ways. Once we've recovered, and had a chance to rest. But thank you so much, and sorry for the delay again. I know we've run massively over time. We're just going to wrap up with there's other people to thank, which is really the team, the production team who put this together. Declan Markey, who's done amazing work behind the scenes, Aoma Bowe, manager of College Connect, Karen Fenlon, Karen Brady, Caroline Reid, our funders, the HEA, our funders, the Public Service Innovation Fund. Huge thanks to the higher education institutions supporting College Connect, of course. Massive thanks to the participants who were so generous with your stories, with your time, with your emotions, and a huge thanks to the peer research team who were just the most amazing people. This project was incredibly difficult to work on, but it was also a huge amount of fun. We've had it, as Lillian said at the beginning, it really was the highlight of the year. So, and thank you to the Irish Refugee Council. Charlotte, thank you for having the idea to do a community needs analysis with us, and we have so much enjoyed partnering with you guys, and just blown away, Nick, by the work that your organisation does, and it's just been an absolute honour and privilege to row in behind you and support in what way we can. So thank you so much for the opportunity to do that. I know I'm forgetting people because I'm moithered at this stage, but Carmel Hennessy as well from TUS, thank you so much for also your technical support. Charlotte, can you think, am I forgetting anybody else?
I was just going to suggest that we might have a little check-in with Esther before we go.
Yes, Esther. How are you getting on?
Would that be possible before we leave? I know we're over time, but it's just she's doing so much fabulous work there.
And the interpreters as well. Orla, it's lovely to see you. We met on a yoga retreat, and it's so nice to see you again.
There were several people in obviously
your team.
Resting each other. That was fabulous.
Yeah, fabulous. And oh, and the housekeeping guys, we're going to send a recording of this event out next week. You'll be sent the full report out next week, and we'll also send you a survey. And we hope this is the beginning of a conversation. So if there are ways we can work with your organisation, or if you have ideas for how we can support your work, we'd love to hear from you. So we'll send all that out to you next week. And thank you everybody for attending, and for sticking with us.
So Declan, are you alive there somewhere? Can you bring us?
Yeah,
good. Esther?
Oh, good. Yeah, that's Esther can share a screen if she like. Just to kind of talk us through it. Yeah.
Okay, I thought you had to magically bring her in.
No, I think I'm already magically here.
There.
Maybe. Although I think I have the screen sharing thing again, so maybe you can just.
Oh, you should.
There we go. Perfect. It's working again. Yeah. Okay. So just give me a moment. And here it, oh, something else is happening at the same time. Shall I just give you kind of a run through all of the images, maybe from the start?
Oh, look at the one with Sinead. Oh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah. So they say images say more than words, or can say what's it saying. Anyway, you know what I mean.
An image says 1,000 words, isn't it? Yeah, lovely.
So yeah, I found both of well, all of the speakers at the beginning very, very impactful. I mean, the whole event was kind of blowing me away the whole time. So I hope I've done justice to it. But yeah, so that's our first image. Wow. And sort of transformation arrow here around the person arriving in Ireland. And then now I'm just going to see if, just bear with me for one moment. I just want to see if I can make my menus disappear for you. Nope, it's not working. Okay. And then panel one, that's the one I've already shown you.
Yeah,
so I'll skip across that one. And then we have panel two. You have to rebuild yourself. So I included some sort of tumbling blocks that have to be rebuilt all the time. And I found also the story of the person who'd been living in the direct provision for 6 years, whose personality is kind of disappearing away. Very powerful. So I hope you can recognize that, but it's sort of the dotted line of the human figure, indicating disappearance. And then we have a bit about the exhibition. So they're just a sort of a collection of snippets. And then, yeah, we have a bit about the University of Sanctuary. And what's next? Oh yeah, this one isn't quite finished. So I'm still working. Oh, something funny happened there. So I'm still working away with that.
Mind the gap. Yeah, wonderful, Esther.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
wow.
Thank you so much
You're
for
so
having
talented.
me.
No, thank you so much for joining us. I'm always in awe when I see your work. It's absolutely fabulous.
And I'll turn on my other camera for just the last bit, so you can actually know that I have a face as well.
You're not just a hand.
You're real. Thank you so much, Esther.
Oh, and I think we're going to play out, I think, with James, a lovely video by James Deeds, who's been working with us, and it's one of Felicia's spoken word transcript poems, That 19 Euro. So we'll play this out for anybody who's still with us. Thank you so much for staying with us. Apologies again for our timekeeping, and we really hope you've enjoyed the event. So good night, folks.
Thanks,
have a lovely evening.
Thanks, bye now.
You know we're not open at that time. You might have to jump over the gate, she said, like an obstacle course, like a jungle gym playground, like there's treasure on the other side. She didn't see the cage doors bolted, the sentence without the crime, so I climbed. You're actually being fed, but I'll be hungry all day. But I have climbed the cage to find common ground in the school, too early to pick the crumbs off the table, too early to swallow leftovers, too early to pick skin off oatmeal, so I starved. You get money. That 19 euro, the one looking to be rounded off with pennies in my sheets that drown in small coffee cups, and a sandwich when a sandwich can be carried, that 19 euro that splits in a day that can't stitch the holes in my pocket. You're getting enough. We used to teach children to assemble bikes, to put together their own dreams. We showed them how how to whiz down any path they wanted, even when death tried to take a chance on me. I rode, and so I lived.